How's it going? Coach Meite here, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you about the most common dieting mistakes that I see people make when it comes to losing body weight and most importantly, body fat. Okay, more specifically, body fat. So before I get into the mistakes, first off, I want to set the record straight and I want you to appreciate that the only thing, the most important thing that has to happen in order for you to lose weight is for your body to be in a calorie deficit. Now, if you don't know what a calorie deficit is, just comment below, let me know, and I'll make another video to explain it, what that is and how it works and things like that. But I'm going to assume that you understand that you need to be in a calorie deficit, and in short, essentially need to reduce your calorie intake on a daily basis. Okay, so on average, your calorie intake needs to be lower than what it is in order for you to lose weight. So that's the first thing. So now that we've got the admin out of the way, the first mistake that I see people make is dieting too aggressively. Now, you understand that you need to reduce your calorie intake to lose body weight. But what people tend to do is reduce their calorie intake so drastically that they're not able to sustain the calorie deficit for the long term. Now remember, this challenge is 8 weeks long. So you're going to be at this for 8 weeks, and if you're only able to hold the deficit for 2 weeks and then you blow it at the third week and then the fourth week, and it kind of becomes this yo-yo effect where you're dieting, but then you can't hold it, so you're back in a surplus, and then you're dieting and in a surplus, and essentially you get nowhere. So it's really important that you avoid this yo-yo effect of being in a deficit and in a surplus, and instead be in a consistent deficit somewhere in the middle. So the way to do that is really to pay attention to how you're feeling when you're in that deficit. And if you're constantly thinking about food, you're probably dieting too aggressively. If you're always hungry, you're probably dieting too aggressively. Now, being a little bit hungry is totally fine, and you probably should be. And when I say hunger, I'm talking about that little feeling in your belly, that little emptiness, maybe a little bit of grumbling. That's totally fine. But if you're always thinking about the next meal, it's probably too aggressive. If you don't think you can maintain this for the next 8 weeks, I need you to reevaluate, have a chat with the coaches, and see how we can help with your diet. So that's the first thing. The second most common mistake is not consuming enough protein. Now, I can't emphasize enough how important protein is, and it's important really for two reasons. The first one is that protein is the most filling of all the macronutrients. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that protein is this magical macronutrient that's going to help you lose fat. There is no magic macronutrient, but it just so happens that out of carbs, fats, and protein, protein is the one that keeps you the most full. So it's really important that you make sure you've got enough protein in your diet, because when you're in a deficit, again, we're talking about hunger earlier, you want to not be that hungry, preferably. So you're going to be a little bit hungry, but you don't want to feel like you're starving all the time. So it's really important that your protein intake is high enough to offset that feeling. That's the first thing. The second reason your protein intake is going to be really important is to prevent muscle loss, and if anything, increase your current muscle mass. So when you're dieting, if you don't consume enough protein and if you don't train, you run the risk of losing muscle, and that is the last thing you want to do. You want to absolutely prevent any sort of muscle loss in a dieting period. So it's really important that your protein intake is high enough to prevent that. So that is the second most common dieting mistake. And finally, the third most common dieting mistake is to not be organized, okay, to wing it. And I want you to not wing it. Now, what I'm saying here is I really want you to be forward thinking and pay attention to what's going to be the next meal. So let's say for tomorrow, I want you to write down what's going to be your breakfast, write down what's going to be your lunch, write down what's going to be your dinner. Now, if you don't want to write it down, that's totally fine, but I need to have a clear picture of what each meal is going to be. And I appreciate for a lot of you guys, that's going to be a challenge, because maybe you like to wing it and you like to go out for a meal with your friends at lunchtime or in the evening, but that really has to stop, because that's not helping you in any way. Let's be honest. Okay, so I appreciate that this is not the most fun way to do things, but you can always spice it up. So when you cook your meals, you can add some condiments and make it taste good, but be prepared. And being prepared is going to help you, again, make sure that you've got enough protein in your diet. It's going to make sure you consume enough fruits, enough vegetables, all that good stuff. But being prepared literally changes the game for the majority of people. Don't wing it. So I hope that makes sense. I hope this helps. And if you want more help as to how to not wing it, how to be more prepared, let me know in the comments below. Let me know how, if you want me to make a video on how to be more prepared, I can always do that for you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Good luck.